Happy Friday, everybody. Today is March 14th, and we have some all-new free science fiction and fantasy bestsellers to warm you up this weekend. It's still kind of chilly out here, so yeah, warm you up. Because every Friday, we here at MetaStellar read the first few chapters of each of the top 5 free fantasy and sci-fi books on Amazon. Today's list includes epic fantasy, dystopia, EMP survival, a college student flung into magical world of fae, orcs, and goblins. Before we get into that, hi everybody, welcome back to the MetaStellar YouTube channel. My name is Maria KOROLOV. I'm the editor here at MetaStellar. And today, Alex KOROLOV, Terrence Smith, and E.S. Foster all contributed to the reviews. And Terrence and Emma are here with us today. And hi, Terrence. Hi, Emma.
Hey.
All right. So let's skip over all the boring administrative stuff and get into the books, because that's why you're here, to get some free books. And we're going to start with book number 5, and then we're going to work our way down to book number 1 on today's list. And let me make that a little bit bigger for you guys so you guys can see it. Here we go. This is book number 5, The Avant Champion Rising by C.B. Samet. This is the first of 5 books in the Avant Champion Epic Fantasy series. The other books are $5 to $9 each and are not on Kindle Unlimited. Emma read this for us. Emma, what did you think of this book?
So this one, it gave the impression that it was more of like a classic style of fantasy, and I was really interested and excited about it because I didn't know how far it was going to fall into like familiar tropes, if it was going to get too tropey, if it was going to have a unique take on them, or whatever. But it begins with Abigail, and she's a girl whose older sibling, her brother and her sister work in the palace. And the palace is like typical standard fantasy from what I've gathered so far reading these first few chapters. And it turns out she's also a student at the local university. Due to her connections, she's able to make some work as a servant, and she's able to keep up with her studies, sort of like help pay for that. And most of the time she spends like dusting the all the busts and like the curtains and everything around the palace. But she seems to enjoy the job. So Abigail and the other servants are preparing for a ball, and the queen is going to be present. So Abigail gets to witness a good portion of the ball, and we get a bit of description of what it's like what the food looks like, who's there, what everyone's dressed like. And suddenly, Abigail's minding her own business. The queen steps up to Abigail and asks her to accompany her to another part of the castle grounds. So Abigail quickly obeys. She doesn't know what the queen wants, but she doesn't want to disobey her. So Abigail steps into a carriage, and they follow a line of carriages away from the ball. But then in the darkness, tall black figures appear, and they're like too tall to be human. They're like 10 feet tall. They're way too thin. And they take away the people in the carriages, and then they just disappear into the night. So the queen announces that the people were actually, it seemed like they were just taken. They're actually dead, and they've been swallowed whole by these creatures. And Abigail's brother was in the line of carriages ahead, so he was also swallowed whole, which is terrifying. So it turns out that the castle is under attack. So they head to the queen's personal quarters, and there the queen's advisor explains that the queen needs to escape at all costs. Abigail is tasked with getting her to this safe place. So trying to keep her fear back, especially since her brother was just swallowed whole by a creature, Abigail says that she knows a place to hide, and she starts leading the way. So I like the start of this story, and like I was saying, it definitely feels like a classic fantasy, and it's like something I would have read as a kid, because it seems like it's geared more toward a younger audience with its writing style. And it's from the writing style that I don't think I'll continue with it, just because it veers into like spending paragraphs of just telling like backstory, all the relevant stuff, instead of just showing it, letting us like wade into the story and getting the readers invested into it. It's just like info dumping all of it in. So that kind of bogged it down for me, but I really enjoyed what the story was about.
All right. So I don't know if I mentioned this, but we read the first few chapters of the books on today's list. We don't read the whole book because we want to get the reviews to you while the books are still free. The books don't stay free for long. Authors and publishers make them free to promote the rest of the books in the series. So please grab them while they are still available. And if you're
Did
watching,
somebody say free?
yes, if you're watching this later and the books aren't free anymore, they're still good books. There was a reason why they're on the bestseller list. Okay, so next we have a book that I read the beginning of. And this is The Fae King's Temptation by Layla Harper. It's the first of 8 books in the Court of Bones and Ash, a romantasy series. The other books are $3 to $4 each, and they are not in Kindle Unlimited. So this book is like, as far as I'm concerned, perfectly written. It's a very modern writing style, very immersive, very well paced. You're really seeing the world through the eyes of these characters. It's all showing, not telling, and we really learn about the characters' lives in the world here. So it starts in a modern world with Kira, who's a college student. She works as a bartender. She's up for an important internship and has to deal with a handsy boss and an obnoxious roommate, but she's got a solid plan for her life and she's working hard on accomplishing her goals. So I really liked her. I liked the pacing of the beginning. It felt super immersive. I really felt like I was in this world with her. Then we switched to a different point of view. In the world of the Fae, Rogar is a king dealing with some complicated political problems, ongoing conflicts, personal issues. He's also been around for a few centuries, and there's battles and there's machinations going on, and we are right in the middle of all his stuff that's happening. And he's also a compelling character who's on top of whatever he's trying to accomplish, and also very sympathetic, engaging, and also pulls you in. Then we go back to Kira's point of view. She's outside, she's walking past an art installation, and there's this weird object there that she mistakes for the art installation, but it turns out to be some kind of giant magical artifact, and it throws her from the human world into the Fae world. And she's not supposed to be there. She's now marked for death. Creatures are chasing her. And if that wasn't bad enough, she also has a magic slave mark on her. And Rogar shows up and saves her. He hides her from the things chasing her. And he also activates her slave mark. And by doing so, because it's a magic mark, they're now able to understand each other when they talk. And maybe it makes her his slave. Not totally clear here. Also, he discovers that she is his magically fated mate, but she's the woman that he cannot have because of the whole thing about humans not being allowed in the Fae world. Meanwhile, Kyra thinks that Rogar is tall, handsome, and well endowed. So we've got multiple fantasy romance tropes all piled together. Fated mates, the guy being way too old for the woman. She's in college, he's several centuries old. There's this instant attraction happening, and of course, the whole magical slavery thing. So I am a little icked out by by all of these. But I do have to say that the book is very well written. It moves along briskly, but not so quickly that it feels like the author is just summarizing the action. Plenty of tension right from the start. Lots of stuff happening. There's battles, which I love. There's interpersonal conflicts. And both Kira and Rogan are sympathetic, compelling characters who seem to be very good at what they do. And I personally love competent people who don't shy away from doing the right thing, no matter how unpleasant or difficult it might be. But then there's those tropes. I hate those tropes so much. And if not for the tropes, I would still be reading the book. But lots of people absolutely love those tropes. And they're probably why the book is on the bestseller list today. So if you're a fan of romantasy, if you like any of those tropes, I do recommend you check it out because it's very, very well written. I totally see why it's on the bestseller list today. All right, next we have something completely different, Flare by Jonathan Maas. This is a standalone book of philosophical horror that's normally $7. It's also in Kindle Unlimited, so if you miss it today, you can pick it up later. Kindle Unlimited is where you pay $12 a month and you read all the books you want. And Jonathan Moss has been on our Free Friday list before. Alex read this for us because he loves post-apocalyptic kind of stuff. So Emma, what did Alex think of the book since Alex isn't actually here today himself?
Seems like he really liked it. I'm personally interested because I haven't really seen anything like this before. So it starts out with the idea that the sun has gone into an extended solar flare. So anyone who goes outside dies instantly. Anyone who stares at the sunlight directly is permanently blinded, but it is possible to go outside at night. So you just need to find shelter before sunrise. Other than that, you're kind of good. So it starts out with Zeke. He's one of the main characters. He's a traveler. He's just trying to survive. So the first chapter, he holes up in an old man's house. He stops the old man for doing something he would regret. I'm assuming that's like he wants to kill himself or anything like that. I'm not really sure. But after that, we meet Ash. Ash is a young man. He wakes up in his sister's house. He's been in a coma due to a car accident. He draws back the curtains just for 1 second. He gets a few nasty burns from the sun because of it. So he's kind of living up to his name. But Ash finds his sister in another part of the house. She's taking care of her boyfriend, who happens to also be injured. And his sister's lover was hit by the sun's light. He's basically like this melted human that she's trying to keep alive, which he's covered in third-degree burns and he's blind, so that sounds awful. But Alex says that he really liked the premise of this book and that he planned to keep reading because he liked the idea of like the sun's light suddenly turning deadly. Thought it was terrifying. He liked to see how the characters survive in this book. And he thinks that the first 2 chapters were basically just to set up, but it was enough to get him hooked.
Oh, I want to digress for a second here because I think it's absolutely insane that we are living on a planet where we cannot look up into the sky without the sun burning us, where half the plants are poisonous that are trying to kill us, where insects are poisonous and trying to kill us. If we live naturally, half of us die in childhood. This is like the worst planet for humanity to live on that you can possibly imagine. I can't wait till we are living in space habitats. Also, on a space habitat, if an asteroid's coming, you can just move out of the way. Or if a space
Well, you'd have to
flare,
move out fast enough.
and if a flare is coming from the sun, you can just duck behind a planet. It's perfect. Anyway, so on to the next book on
We'll be living in Halo.
Halo set.
Yeah, giant rings, ring world.
Halo is set in a space habitat?
Halo is a space. Basically, okay. There's habitat on the Halo, but the true purpose it's like this super weapon that these other alien race of beings think it's was sent by the gods essentially, and I could go way into the Halo lore, but I won't do that right now.
Oh yeah, for everybody who hasn't been here for a while, so Terrence, thanks for being back. Terrence writes about video games for Gamerant. He's also a science fiction novelist, and his first novel is going to be serialized in MetaStellar in the fall. So, welcome back to Free Friday. Yay, very exciting. Okay, let's go on to book number 2 on today's list. Let me make that a little bit bigger for you guys. This is The Fast Track by Tom Draycott, the first of 3 books in the Dance of Truth and Lies, a young adult dystopian series. The other books are normally $10 each, but they're both free today. So if you're interested in this book, grab all 3 of those books while they are free. Okay, and Terrence read this for us. Terrence, what did you think of this book?
Okay, before I continue, the third one actually came out, and I think that's free for a limited time as well.
All right.
And the trilogy is available on both Amazon and Barnes and Noble ebook shop for free. Anyway, yeah, for the moment. Anyway, on with the review. So, basically, this book is essentially 1984 meets like Silicon Valley meets communist China, where the society is divided into 2 different classes. You're either in the establishment, which means that you have a life of ease and you can do pretty much whatever you want. And then the plebs, who are ranked as the inferior ones, and they're just shipped off to this sort of prison neighborhood where they're never seen or heard from again, and their names are deleted from the archives of the schools they attended. And what divides these 2 groups is a test that each of these individuals have to take. And what happens is that 3 students, Mac, Yoshiko, and Detsu, each scored perfectly on the test. So instead of being sent to the prison neighborhood, which is where the people known as the plebs live, they are whisked away to the secret third option, which is basically where the super intelligent people make all the decisions for this future London civilization. They're what are called the techs. So these 3 individuals are going to go to this school that's basically Hogwarts meets Tomorrowland, essentially. The 1984 vibes hit you pretty hard early on because there are these surveillance drones that are supposed to be able to detect what your emotions are at any given moment. So these are basically like the thought police from George Orwell's 1984, making sure no one's thinking anything negative or critical of the civilization. And also, if you end up rebelling too much, you get whisked away to this basically education camp, as it's called. And we see this world through the perspectives of these 3 characters. Mac is usually someone who abides by the rules and tries to be. He's always felt that something is off about the civilization he lives in. So basically, he's Neo before he discovers he's in the Matrix. And there's this other girl named Yoshiko who loves to break some rules, read forbidden books at 4 a.m. with her best friend slash girlfriend and get into all kinds of mischief. And she basically just flipped off one of those security drones, and I liked her immediately. Then we have Detz, who's going to play the weak damsel in distress type and the super secret high-tech school, playing games with Mac when she's actually a manipulative mastermind. It was a little confusing in the first chapter. It felt like things were going so fast, just jumping from scene to scene, but they didn't really go into much detail with what the actual settings changed to. And the later chapters, it gets a bit more detailed, and that helps you a lot more with the world immersion. And I like very descriptive text going into depth about the worlds. It really makes you feel more like you're in these worlds yourself. Bottom line, would I read this again? I would like to, but I have a really short attention span, so more than likely I won't. But if this sounds like your kind of thing, you should check it out. The entire trilogy is free on Amazon and Barnes & Noble right now, so I mean, there's really no excuse not to look into these right now.
I like the fact that it hits all the major tropes. I read the first couple of chapters of this as well. There's artificial intelligence in there. There's a world where robots do everything for people, and the majority of people don't have jobs or unemployed, and nobody knows what's happening to them, or they're living on the dole in these, segregated areas, or what's happening with them.
Attention, everyone! Run for your lives! Robots have taken over the world.
The drones are super creepy because they basically do mind reading, and but there's also the whole school thing, the whole being tested and being separated into groups that reminds me a bit of like Divergent. And the feel of the book reminded me a little bit of Ender's Game, actually, in terms of the personality of some of the main characters. So a lot of very current issues being discussed, plus the whole creepy dystopian political climate. I mean, he's hitting like all the high points of today's life.
This
All
is
right.
not supposed to be a true story.
Yeah. So if you like books that are extremely relevant, and I thought it was really well written, definitely pick it up. I do not like books that are relevant anymore. I want books that are totally irrelevant. I want like as far away fantasy as you can get, or a space opera in a really, really distant galaxy. I want my escapism to be like really, really escapist. Okay, now before we go on to book number 1 on today's list, I want to take a quick note to thank our Patreon supporters. including our newest supporter, Thomas. Thank you guys so much. So MetaStellar is run completely by volunteers. So Terrence, who helps edit our original fiction, and Emma, who helps edit our reprints, and Emma's also in charge of our latest anthology. She and like the dozen of other people, more than a couple dozen at this point, were all volunteers. All the money raised from Patreon goes to support original fiction. It goes directly to emerging human authors of science fiction, fantasy, and horror short stories. So if you want to support human writers and get more of them published, please donate. Even a couple of bucks a month will help a lot. Also, what would help is if we have a merch store where you can buy stuff like mugs and notebooks. And we've also have our first serialized book is available through all major booksellers in print and electronic form. We serialized this novel last year, and this is a hand-painted cover. I think we have a video of the artist painting it, and the author herself has read the entire book on our YouTube channel. Links in the description box below. We are now serializing our second novel by Geordie Morse, and he's also reading it for our YouTube channel. Another work read aloud and written by an actual human being. We no longer accept articles that have been written with AI, and all authors have to attest that they haven't used AI to write their stories. And we have 3 anthologies up, again, all major bookstores and in print and electronic form. And Emma is working on editing anthology number 4 together with a team of volunteer copy editors. And all the authors do get paid for their work. So please pick up copies of the anthology. That helps us publish even more original science fiction and fantasy. So thank you very much to our Patreon supporters and to people who support our channel by joining it. So you can do that as well. So thank you very much. And also, before we go on to book number 1, I want to point out that Emma Foster is also a book coach and editor, and you can hire her. And that I'm a technology journalist during the day. I cover artificial intelligence, but I also write science fiction novels, and they are up on Amazon. They are also all free, and they are also on the Amazon bestseller list for humorous science fiction. And the links are in the description box below as well. Okay, let's go on to book number 1 on today's list, The Last Ranch by William Stone. It's a standalone book of EMP survival, and the author has been on our Free Friday list before. EMP books are super popular, and Alex read this for us because he loves EMP books. And since Alex isn't here, Emma, can you tell us what Alex thought of this book?
So Alex really liked this one. He says it's an EMP book, like you said. That's when an electromagnetic pulse wipes out all electronic devices, and it usually leads to a bunch of chaos. So he says that in the first chapter, there is a character named Luke. He's watching his son Ethan at high school wrestling practice. Luke is also on the phone at the same time. He's talking about some corporate money-related job stuff. Suddenly, the lights flicker, it plunges the gym into darkness, and Luke's phone dies. So Luke pulls out his laptop, he sees that it's also dead. Every other person in the gymnasium is complaining that their phone is dead. So Luke automatically deduces that this is an EMP. So I guess he has experience in that sort of thing. Next chapter takes place in a cattle ranch, and this is where Luke's wife Caroline is riding a horse. She's taking care of 300 cattle, and this ranch is in Texas. It's very hot. She's taking care of all the business, when essentially she feels like something has gone wrong. She goes and talks to her employees. They say all their phones are dead, so something is definitely happening. It's definitely an EMP. So Alex said that as far as EMP stories go, he really likes it because sometimes they take a long time to get the action, but this one has the action going right from the start. So he really enjoys like less build up and more action, so he thinks he's going to keep reading this one.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Terrence, as well for joining us today. If you like any of these books, if you pick them up, or if you don't like these books, let us know in the comments below. And also let us know where you stand on the whole, do you want the mushy romance stuff? Leave a heart. If you like realistic and socially relevant things, leave a comment. And if you're into escapism like me, vote for that. All right, so and I also want to mention that you can watch or listen to Geordie Morse read the first installment of his book, and there's an interview with Geordie as well up on our channel. I'll post those links here, and we have 4 installments are already up on our website that you can read for free and on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We love doing this, and we love you guys for supporting us. It means the world to us. We'll see you all next Friday. Bye-bye.
All right.